Hi there! Welcome back to Kutiefly. Welcome back to this channel. I just have Squirrel kind of chilling with me today, and I thought he'd be part of this video, even though the video has nothing to do with him. Today I thought I would talk about something that I know a lot of PokeTubers and a lot of people online have been talking about, but I haven't seen anybody have this sort of I haven't seen another video or anybody else kind of have the same sort of reaction I did when I initially saw the news. When I saw the news of Ash winning the Pokemon League and the news about the new Galar League, and people have been kind of floating around and saying that there may be a chance that Ash won't be in this new anime. So I thought I would give a video today and just kind of talk about my thoughts and my reactions about that. And if you guys like it, feel free to let me know, or feel free to let me know what your ideas are about this in the comments below. So, first of all, unrelated, we got a new Pokemon Surfetch, and I'm super excited about that. I love all the memes that have been coming out about this Pokemon, and I'll put them somewhere around here. But they've been hilarious, and I think it's fun. I'm excited to see what counterpart Pokemon they're going to do for him. I'm hoping it's a Dragon Dunsparce, but we'll see. But I just thought I'd throw that out there too, just in case anybody watching my channel, because I have some people watching who aren't that familiar with Pokemon. I figured I'd give them all the news too. So yeah, we got that new Pokemon. I'm excited to hear more. But basically, the main point of this video is talking about what's next for the Pokemon anime. Now, for the first time ever, Ash has actually won the Pokemon League. He's the Pokemon League champion. I personally think it's fitting for him to win in Alola, since this is their first Pokemon Championship tournament ever. Gen 7 game was really focused on the idea that this is a new island and they want to build their own Pokemon League, and they're building it from scratch. And the community, at least in the game, makes it seem like it's very, very traditional and trying to incorporate their own traditions in there. And it's this interesting hybrid. I think Pokemon really took this time with Gen 7 to be a little bit more experimental, and they did that in a number of ways. But for me, at least, I know people want to talk about Ash's teams, and if he had a good enough team to win the league, or which team statistically was his best. A lot of people think he should have won in the past, but I think Alola is the best. And just because Alola, or at least the Alolan anime and Gen 7 kind of play to Pokemon's core values, at least it did for kids. I would argue that it is more of a reboot in terms of the show and anime dynamics, just because, or even the game itself, because there's no gyms, right? They were being super experimental. They did trials. They did the fact that you had to do trials and learn lessons, and in the show Ash was in school and all about friendships and learning and all that stuff. It's very poignant for kids, right? Pokemon Divest definitely did this more so in the show than in the games, but the target audience was young children that were watching the TV at that different time. And that kind of, for me, explains the difference in art style too. It's a lot more rounded, a lot softer, a lot more friendly, even though it's they still kept a lot of anime components, especially with the facial expressions, and some of the art style is still very reminiscent of traditional, more of anime tropes than necessarily the old TV show. They made it rounder, they made it softer, they made it more anime, expressive is the word I want. They made it more expressive for kids, and it's something a kid can relate to. They go to school, they learn things every day. It's a way for young kids to travel and still learn new things, but also feel like they too could be part of the adventure. So in that way, it was more realistic for them. And I think with that in mind, showing kids that you can triumph even though you're just in school and just doing this or just doing whatever hits home to Pokemon's branding more so than Ash winning the league in any other instance. The old anime, even though, again, I'm blinded by nostalgia and I love it so much, even though it had its own distinct art style, it was still pretty westernized, at least in terms of like target audience and themes, and I mean, it's a global brand, right? And they're going to cater it to certain audiences. But at one point in time, Pokemon became so westernized that people here like stop referring to it as an anime and just refer to it as a show, even though that's not correct. Like it's still very much anime and like true to its artistic roots. But the most of the show has been pretty grown up. Initially, when he's still learning and going around, that's when kids connect to. But I feel like if you are honestly like a young kid watching the show, you might lose interest towards the end when it's just about action or just about balancing and battling. And I'm not talking about like adolescent kids or like, you know, kids who can follow on the story and have that big flashy stuff. I'm talking about really, really little ones. So that's why Pokemon did this sort of soft reboot. And I bring that up because people are saying that now that Ash has won the league, that they might reboot the anime all entirely and do something completely different. And my only quarrel against that is that I think since they made such drastic changes in Gen 7, I don't think they would do that again. Because a lot of the older fans had backlash against the show. Like, I didn't watch the show, and I don't think any of the PokeTubers I watched actually watched that anime. Or at least this generation of anime, but people watched the previous ones, and because it wasn't meant for adults. And yes, I think that Pokemon's going to try to return to be serving of like all of its age demographics in the future. Of course they do. I think this next one will be pretty adult, but I don't think that means that you have to get rid of the complete protagonist, the original protagonist, and put somebody else in. Like, even though I would love to see a female protagonist, like not just like the female that goes with Ash everywhere, but an actual female protagonist, or like a person of color be a protagonist, or like do a little bit more representation in the show. I would love that. I just don't think that's going to happen. You've had 20 years of marketing with the same kid that is Ash and his journey, and he goes around, and you've been doing this for so long. To change it up that drastically after you did change drastic mechanics to the game a year before, I personally don't see that as successful. One might argue that, like, why the hell not? They've already changed so much, they might as well. But I just don't see it that way. What I do see instead, though, is Ash using his new champion, like, status and title and bringing that to the Galar region. But it is important to know, like, before I go on and talk more about like Ash having this sort of clout from his championship title, that Galar, or at least the Gen 8 anime Pokemon put up on their website or whatever, I'll put a blooper of it up here, they made a statement saying that the 8th anime isn't just going to be specifically in Galar, it's going to encompass all the previous generations and all the previous regions as well, or at least a lot of them. Which is something that, again, the show hasn't done. Normally it's about Ash going and traveling to a new region, new home, new Pokemon, and trying to exploring around there. He kind of restarts after every adventure and gets, like, you know, a new star Pokemon and does this. And, you know, even though that doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense because a lot of his Pokemon would be, like, OP by this point, he does start over every year. But I think this might be a mechanic they're thinking about changing if they do want to incorporate all previous regions within Galar. Or within the 8th, keep saying Galar, within the 8th generation of this anime video. I mentioned that, like, influence and branding and, you know, fandoms are going to play a big, big, big role in the new games coming up. I have a video about Marnie and her being like a social media influencer, or like an e-girl, basically. If you haven't seen that, please check it out, because a lot of the themes that are going to be in this video might carry over to that one. And basically, you know, I think the core mechanic and what makes this new game and / show really different is the fact that you have to get sponsored by companies and to progress in the league. And there's a ranking system, but part of that ranking system is dependent on, like, how popular you are or how many fans you have as a Pokemon trainer, which is something that's never been done before. And this is very realistic. I mean, you know, you have all these professional athletes with, like, really big Instagram accounts, like Serena Williams is very active on social media and different causes as well. Or you have, like, professional soccer players tend to have, like, a lot of Instagram followers too. And it's all about image and branding. And, you know, it comes with the territory of being famous in general, but also a professional athlete, and they're incorporating that into Pokemon for the first time. Because of this, I think this might give Ash a leg up if, one, he brings his champion title from Alola to Galar, so that he doesn't have to basically start at ground zero, but he can already gather a sort of international following, and maybe that can influence whatever domestic following he has to get. But also, having so many adventures in previous regions as well might already make him fairly well known in Galar. This could be a chance for Pokemon to incorporate, different communications between different regions. They go back and rewrite the lore all the time about, certain professors living in Johto and Kanto, or in Sinnoh and Kanto, or, whatever. And this could be a chance to show how interconnected all the regions actually are. So what he could do is, even just bring his popularity from different regions over, or also he could incorporate Pokemon that he's used before and bring them to Galar. He could switch out his teams more frequently. Maybe it would make him more popular to use Bulbasaur, or to use a Pokemon that doesn't necessarily show up in Galar every day, He could get popular by having these unique Pokemon. At the same time, too, which I would hope would be pretty likely, because I think it would be a really cool mechanic. Maybe he starts convincing his former rivals or other trainers he knew to participate in Galar's Pokemon League. This kind of correlates with the idea of Pokemon Masters as the game, as the new cell phone game that's been coming out. I don't know how many people have been playing that, but it is really fun, and the whole point of that game really is you cooperate and you battle together on a team. So it's like team versus team, 3 versus 3. But it's got an in-game collecting mechanic too, but it's not necessarily Pokemon, it's trainers themselves. And you learn more about trainers from different regions, or at least trainers from the games in the show. You learn more backstory, you learn more lore, and it really, really builds up, I think, a more personal relationships between certain gym leaders or whoever, and the player. And this could be a great marketing ploy to introduce a mechanic similar to that in the new show, in the new 8th gen anime. You can see a recycling of old characters that weren't traditionally that popular, but then they get a new voice in this anime because they're participating in I don't want to say a melee style tournament, although I think that would be super cool. But it might be really, really cool to see at least some of the popular characters from Pokemon Masters make a reappearance in the Galar anime, or at least the Gen 8 anime. It'd be a good cross-marketing idea. It'd be a good cross-marketing play, because I know Pokemon Go was super, super popular, and they ended up introducing those mechanics in Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee for people who, liked Pokemon at one point in time and then got back into it because of Pokemon Go, and then, people, in order to get them to buy the Switch and all other things, Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu was a great vehicle for that. And so maybe they want to target multiple audiences between, kids who watch the show, hardcore fans, adult fans, or, people who are casual players, and people who might not know so much about Pokemon, but by making frequent visits to other regions and trying to collect, but try to convince other famous trainers to participate in this league could be really interesting. Again, I haven't seen that too much with the games. The games have been really introducing new original characters, which I think for the games is a smart way to go. At the same time, this could be an element to do fan service, especially since there was that scandal about not including, the complete national index in the Pokemon games. Maybe this is a way to address that in a way, I guess. If you do that, if you incorporate some of those elements of gotta catch them all into the show rather than the game, although that might also kind of upset people. I feel like no matter what you do, you're going to upset people, but that could be an element of it. Or maybe they're focusing on trying to collect as many interpersonal relations as you can versus as many Pokemon, or both, either way. I think somebody like Cynthia would do extremely well if they competed in the Galar Pokemon League. I don't know if there's rules against previous Elite Four members or previous champions competing in other leagues, but it might be a great chance for Ash to really, really show his skills more so than just Alola. And maybe now that he has the respect of being the Alolas champion, he can compete against champions and end up beating them that way, which would be really, really heroic, especially if you want like a final like hurrah for the anime or whatever, or how far it's going to go. I'd rather see something like that that's more competitive. I mean, it is more of an adult theme, and it's probably more fan service for like hardcore fans or people who really know these characters already. But I think that'd be a great contrast to what we had for the Gen 7 anime so far. That was very, you know, childish. I mean, they had like they still had battles and stuff, but I personally wasn't impressed with Ash's Alolan team. I think he could have done better, and it was weird for him to win with that team. It felt incomplete to me. It felt unfinished, and you know, they did travel back to Kanto during the Alolan anime for like a brief second, and he reintroduced Brock and Misty. So if they're already playing on that theme, they might decide to expand upon that further in Gen 8, and try to rally friends. And maybe that's how Ash gets his clout. Maybe he gets more famous in Galar because of his relationships outside of Galar, and grows up the ranks that way, in addition to his battling. I just think this whole mechanic of popularity, I guess, or trying to get famous too is interesting. I'm excited to see how that's going to play out, at least in the games for Galar. It might be different. And I want to see what sort of messaging Pokemon has behind that, you know, like, because I feel like when you introduce new mechanics and more social mechanics like that, there's going to be a statement made, you know, like I mentioned in the previous video too. And again, if you haven't seen it, please watch it. But this could be a chance for them to make a really big political and social statement. Obviously, they've been pretty pro-environment and things like that in their game messaging and their show messaging before, but this could be a chance for them to make more of a social critique instead of just like, you know, nature is magic, and you know, we should be one with nature and work with nature and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's about it. At least those are my thoughts. And again, this is just like a quick little, I guess, theory video to see what happens until we get new information. I think we're supposed to get new information about the games pretty soon. But until then, I thought I'd give you guys this little tidbit for like what I'm hoping to see, at least in the show in the future. If you like this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate all this help that this channel can get. And like I said, people have been super supportive, and it's been fun to see this channel grow. So if you'd like to see it grow any further, feel free to engage and, you know, share this video with a friend. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks. Bye.